Are you an up-and-coming professional? Well, then here are 6 bits of advice to help you become a much better professional photographer.
These are all terrible bits of advice, by the way. If you are fairly fresh to being a professional photographer, these are things you may hear from blogs, videos, other photographers, or even things we tell ourselves, such as number 6.
If you want to become a good photographer, simply buy more gear. And if you want to automatically become a really good photographer, simply buy more expensive gear.
While there are some pieces of gear you're going to need in order to take a particular type or style or genre of photos, nobody automatically ascends and skips skill levels by simply buying a new piece of gear. In fact, if you have this mindset when on the hunt for a new camera, lens, flasher, or whatever, you're gonna find out a lot of what you purchase just ends up becoming a waste. Photography skills do not come in a box from Amazon. The skills come with education, experience, and trial and error. Focus on the core fundamentals, and if you come across scenarios time and time again when a certain piece of gear would have made a world of difference, then yeah, maybe it's time to make the purchase. Terrible tip number 5.
That next gig you're looking to land and book, that's the one that'll be your big break. Afterward, the emails will come pouring in, the phone will ring off the hook, and you'll be booking jobs left and right.
This is another thing we photographers sometimes tell ourselves. We think that if we land that next shoot, or we get our work published in a particular magazine, or it's published on a certain blog or somebody else's Instagram account, that's gonna be our big break. Unfortunately, that's rarely the case. In fact, I'd venture to say that never happens. The reality is success, and whatever that means to you, it takes time. Yes, one particular job could definitely lead to other shoots and gigs, but most photographers' growth as a business, it's a steady climb. They don't usually look back on one particular shoot as, oh, that was the point where my business just exploded. And this is good to keep in mind because sometimes potential clients will even use this argument to take advantage of you. They will use this argument to justify asking for massive discounts to do a shoot, or even asking you to do shoots in exchange for exposure. Also known as doing something for free. Terrible tip number 4.
One of the best ways to get new business is to send out a massive amount of long introductory emails to potential clients where you talk about your services and how great of a photographer you are.
Now, the reality is, yes, this can work, but most people you will email will never respond. Some will, yes, but you're kind of just playing the numbers game at that point. Obviously, we would love to meet in person with every prospective client, but email is a necessary evil in our line of work. Really, in most lines of work when you think about it. Anyway, if email is going to be an initial point of contact, do it with purpose. Give your potential clients a reason to open and read your email. Do not come blasting out of the gate talking about your services and how amazing your images are, because honestly, most people don't care. What they do care about is what you and your photography can do for them. Okay, terrible piece of advice. Number 3.
If you are unsure how to structure your rates and pricing, simply copy what all the other photographers are doing in your area, or better yet, let your clients tell you how much you should charge.
When photographers think about branding, they usually think about how their websites look, their social media, and their business cards, etc. But a major piece of branding that a lot of photographers overlook is their pricing. Remember, things with a higher price tag are generally viewed as being higher quality. Now, whether or not a more expensive thing is actually better, well, that's a video for another day. But at the very least, they are perceived that way. If you want to get a lot of business by undercutting everyone else's pricing, go right ahead. But remember, you will be perceived as a lower quality photographer. You want to match everyone else's pricing, that's fine, but you're gonna start to be viewed as a commodity along with everyone else. You want to make your prices higher than everyone else's? Go for it. You won't have as many clients as the cheap guy, but you will be viewed and treated as a higher quality professional. Your pricing attracts the type of clients willing to pay that price. Terrible tip number 2.
After so long and after so many years, your images will be 100% perfect, and eventually you will know all there is to know about photography. You'll be an expert in your field, and there's really nothing else to learn.
I know this sounds ridiculous, and most professional photographers would never say this, but a lot of them subconsciously think it. If you ever take part in, say, educational webinars, Zoom calls, workshops related to photography, who's usually in there in attendance to learn? The newbies. Maybe they're new to a genre, they're new to starting a business, or just new to photography altogether. You rarely see seasoned professionals as students. Now, rightfully so, many of the things taught in those classes or workshops, webinars, whatever, that might be considered old news and well-known things to seasoned pros. But to some of them, in their own mind, they've crossed some sort of threshold where they don't need to learn anything new. They pretty much know everything there is to know. My point is, there's always something new to learn. There's always techniques and skills to acquire to make you a better photographer. Don't become that photographer who thinks they know everything. Yes, you may be hungry to learn now, but be mindful of how that desire may diminish over time because of your own ego. All right, here it is, the number 1 worst tip or bit of advice I have ever heard related to photography.
Copyright is automatic the moment you click the shutter button, so there's no need to register your images. You can still take legal action against an infringer, even if the image or images in question are not registered with the Copyright Office.
Yes, this is the dumbest piece of advice I have ever heard related to professional photography, and many times it comes from other photographers. And to be completely transparent, I used to be one of those photographers. I used to think that years ago. One day though, I found several of my images being used by a company I had never given permission to. I contacted a few local attorneys, and guess what was one of the first questions they asked? Are the images registered? If you go on any photography related forum or Facebook group, you are bound to see some new novice photographer ask for advice on what to do when they find their images being used somewhere without permission. What is the first question most seasoned veteran photographers will ask back at them? Did you register the images? Most photographers who do register their work, like me, started to do it because we were in some scenario where reality hit us and we finally realized, oh wow, I guess I really do need to start registering my photos. And if you don't, it not only affects you, but it affects all other professional photographers collectively. Businesses who steal images know they're taking a risk, but in their eyes, it's a risk worth taking because most photographers don't register and protect their work. And even if they are discovered, the photographer is going to be too intimidated and scared to do anything about it. I could keep discussing this ad nauseum, but if you are still questioning whether there's any validity to what I'm talking about when it pertains to copyright, talk to an intellectual property attorney and ask. It might open your eyes on a subject you've been choosing to ignore for a while. Well, that's my list of some of the worst bits of advice and tips I've ever heard personally. But if you've heard some terrible advice that's not on this list, please let me know in the comments. If you got anything out of this video, make sure to drop me a thumbs up. Feel free to follow me on Instagram at Matthew A. Photo and do all the cliche YouTube things like share, subscribe, scrub, add seasoning, rinse and repeat, bake it 20 minutes at 350. Anyway, that'll do it for this one. If you made it all the way here to the end, I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to watch. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for watching.